Yeah, I'm Tina Rulli. I'm an associate professor in the philosophy department. Yeah, I got my PhD at Yale in philosophy, and I wrote my dissertation in applied ethics. And coming out of my PhD, I got a job at Purdue University, but I also got a postdoctoral fellowship at the National Institutes of Health in their bioethics department. So I went to the postdoc for 2 years first, and that's where I was trained in bioethics. And when I was there, I met Professor Jerry Dworkin, who worked here at the time. He's now retired. And then I went to Purdue for a year. And right when I started Purdue, Professor Dworkin mentioned me, and people here were looking for a bioethics professor. So that connection I made at the National Institutes of Health, plus the fact that UC Davis was hiring in bioethics, is the reason that I'm here. So I got recruited away from Purdue, and now I'm here teaching ethics and bioethics. So I teach a large lecture course, Introduction to Bioethics. It's 515, and it's like 185 students with discussion sections, and we just do a big survey of issues in bioethics. I also teach a upper division course in bioethics. It's 5121, so it's a smaller class, it's like 30 students, and I run it seminar style, so we read a journal article for each class and we just discuss it together. And I also teach 5116, which is ethical theories, and I teach broadly normative ethics in that class. So those are my 3 undergrad classes, and I have 1 graduate seminar every year as well. Yeah, so I research on a lot of different things. There's somebody who has like a hand in various different topics that are unrelated to each other sometimes. So one thing I worked on in the past was on the ethical value of applications of CRISPR, a gene editing technology, in human reproduction. And my main argument is that it's actually not very valuable or important. And so that has gotten me a little bit of attention. And so I have further research projects on that. Like I'll be presenting that work in London in the winter at the Royal Academy of Sciences and Medicine. So that's a big one. The other is more philosophical. So I work in what's known as population ethics, which is the ethics of creating people, if there's any value in creating people. And then there's a whole bunch of puzzles in philosophy related to the reasons we have to create people or not to create people. So I'm working on that right now, possibly going to write a book in that area soon. First thing I would say is that you can be a philosophy major and you can love philosophy, you can love ethics or other branches of philosophy, and you can find a job that's not philosophy related and do really, really well. And that's because philosophy hones your analytical and critical thinking skills and your ability to communicate both orally and in writing. And employers want those skills. So when I came out of undergrad, I was hired by a finance consulting firm, and I worked with them for 2 years before I went to graduate school. And so that's like an alternative career path I could have had. I could have been a finance consultant, and that's with absolutely no business skills. That's just because, if you do well in school and you show you have analytical and critical thinking skills, people want those kind of skills. So obviously that's not the career I have now, but I just want to point that out because the career I have now is great, but it's really, really difficult right now to get a job as a professor. And so the advice I'd give to any undergrads who want to go to grad school in philosophy with the hope of becoming a professor is just to really, really know that even outstanding graduate students aren't finding jobs right now. So if you're going to go, do it, but go for the love of philosophy. Don't take out any loans to do it. Make sure it's paid for. And most good programs will pay you a stipend to go and won't charge you tuition. And then just imagine, like, if you came out of 6 years of studying philosophy intensively and you didn't get a job as a professor, would you be deeply disappointed, or would it have been worth it? And I like to think for me it would have been worth it. And so that would be my advice if you want a career similar to this, is you have to first be willing to invest the time and energy into something that's very, very difficult and not be guaranteed a job in it. And if you can do that, then it's worth a shot maybe, but there's no one straight and certain path to getting a job as a philosophy professor anymore. So I like to paint and do art and draw. That's one thing, I really wish I had more time for, and it's something I would, that would be like an alternative career for me if I could have one. I also like to work out. I like to run, I like to bike. I like to do stand-up paddling. So those are some of my favorite things. Well, I'm sad that Camp Marie closed because I really like that place. They have good Thai food. I really like Che Corner. They have vegan Vietnamese food. I try to eat vegan most of the time. So, and Third and U was a great place to grab a beer, but I think they also closed. So those were my favorites. You know, pandemic times, things have closed. So I gotta find some new spots too.